What's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com. In today's video, we're going to talk about the 5 things you do not want to do when dealing with debt collectors. 5 things you don't want to do when dealing with debt collectors. Because if you mess up with these, you're going to give them the right to just jump right into your life, to throw stuff all on your credit report. They're going to just make your life a living hell. So listen to this. Watch this video and listen. Watch and listen. Don't just watch and don't just listen. I want you to watch and listen. Get that thinking cap on. 5 things you don't want to do when dealing with debt collectors. So the first one that we're going to talk about, and this is crazy, when I first started the credit repair shop, this was when I would tell my clients this, they were like, "Are you crazy, Steve? What do you mean? Don't run and hide from debt collectors." I don't answer my phone. When my kids answer the phone, they say, my mom isn't here or my dad isn't here. Or pretend like they got the wrong house, whatever. Don't answer the phone. Don't do nothing. And they were like, "What do you mean answer the phone?" Yes, answer the phone, because this could accelerate your way out of having to pay this debt collector. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that. It's not about answering the phone and answering their questions. You're answering the phone and you're just going to let them talk. So now we're going to run through the things that you have to watch out for. But the first thing, so you can be done and just get done and over with this debt, is that you don't want to run and hide. You want to get that information, because the way that they either provide it can make it to where the debt goes away, or they may not be able to prove everything about it. It's better than just letting it just sit there. So don't run and hide. Number 2, don't give your information. When they start asking you questions, you don't answer their questions. You turn it around on them and you say, "You called me. You're asking me about a debt. You called this number. You should have the information." And let them say the information, and you do not acknowledge it. You just let them say it. It's very important that you do that, because we're going to get into why in a second. So don't give your information. That might be very difficult. They might try to get you emotional. They're going to try to say, "Well, you're a deadbeat," or they might try to say all types of stuff, which, if they say you're a deadbeat, that's actually violating the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, because they're harassing you on the phone. They are not allowed to talk that way. So number 3, don't sign a contract agreeing, and don't do it digitally. Don't do it by voice or etc. There's all these different ways that courts are recognizing contracts. So be very careful. Now, you might be saying, "Well, I'm not going to sign any contract." People fall into this a lot because they'll get people emotional about the debt. That's really the reason why people don't want to answer the phone, is because they know that the debt collector is going to get them angry. They're going to get them upset. They're going to say something. They might end up saying something. That's the reason why people fall into this, because they end up going in that back and forth conversation with the debt collector, because that's their job. And then they'll get the individual and say, "Hey, let's just fix this real quick. We don't want to get you in trouble. We don't want to make life rough for you. Can you just do this agreement?" As long as we have that agreement, they're just trying to take you a little step at a time, little baby step. If we just get this agreement, we're not going to harass you this way, or we're not going to call you this way over and over, and we'll just know when a payment could possibly come. And then they get you to sign that contract, or they get you to make some type of a voice contract, something to just try to get you on record saying that you owe this debt. And that gets into number 4. Don't pay anything. Request a verification and a validation. So now you might be saying, "Steve, what's the difference between a verification and a validation?" Verification is about the debt itself. It's like if a debt collector buys a debt and then they get it from some other company, and the debt collector says, "Hey, you owe this debt. We own it now. So the first thing that you should do is you should say, 'Well, I want to verify everything about the debt And then I want to do a debt validation, which is similar in the same, except for that with the validation, you're putting the onus on them. Like, why do I have to pay you for the debt? So you have a verification. Yeah, I did have an account with them. That's not what you're saying to them. That's what you're actually saying to yourself, and you're asking them to verify all of the information about the debt. And then you're going to say, okay, well then I want to see, show me why I have to pay you for the debt. And what we do in that, we still, in that validation, the way that we do it, we'll send verification and we'll do a validation, and we'll say, well, tell us why we have to pay you. And then we want you to validate everything that you're claiming was in the verification. They can't do it. They can't do it. They don't have all the records from the original creditor. They don't. And they don't want you to know that. They want to keep you on the emotional side where you're just going back and forth verbally about paying the debt. They don't want to get into every aspect about the debt. They don't want to get into that line there. So don't pay anything, because if you pay anything, you're going to be making a big problem for yourself, because you're going to actually be resetting the debt that could be past the legal statute of limitations to collect. Every state has a statute of limitations. The years are different. Some of them are as low as 3 years. Some of them are as high as 10 and 15 years. And what that means is that if a debt collector buys a debt, or an original creditor still has a debt, and they do not contact you within, let's give an example, with the state that has 3 years, if they do not do it and it passes that date of 3 years, the original creditor nor the debt collector can come after you for that debt legally. Now, they might call you to say there's moral stuff, religious stuff. They'll try all types of stuff, but you have no legal obligation, and they cannot take you to court. Some of them do try to take you to court, and all you have to do is let the judge know this debt is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. But if you end up making a payment or a contract, you can reset that time frame and end up having to pay a debt that you didn't have to pay. So now, number 5, don't let the 5-day notice pass. And then real quick, I want to go back to something here. This here is something that you would do after number 5. I should have flipped those in the order. So the first, when you do this verification validation, they have 30 days to complete this. And then there's a 90-day waiting period, like a cooling off period that's required, where once you dispute that debt, this is considered a dispute. If it's any, you have a right to dispute any or all of the debt. When you do that and you dispute the debt, there's a 30 days for them to respond, but there's a 90-day where they can't do anything. They're not even supposed to call you about it. Nothing. They have to go through that process. And then once it works through the 90th day, then everything can start back up, or they can say that they're not going to try to collect on that debt. Also, if you decide to try to settle the debt in that 90-day window period, you would have to call them up and tell them, hey, I'm not disputing it anymore. I want to go ahead and pay it. So, and that could happen. Some debts you just say, hey, it's mine. I want to deal with this. I'm trying to buy a house or whatever you're trying to do. So you're going to have to call them up, and they'll have you do that by phone, and they'll record it. And you just tell them, hey, I want to take that debt out of the dispute process, and I want to go ahead and, talk about doing a settlement with it. But you have a 30-day window where they have to respond, and then there's a 90 days that it'll be in the dispute process. Now, but let's go back to number 5. This is very important. This is very important. So listen to this. This is probably the most important part of the group there. Well, no, I'll say that they're all equal. I'll take that back. They're all equal. But this one here is at the beginning on something that you could do to actually make a debt go away, even if you're legally obligated to pay it. But you have to set this up the right way. So when you have a debt collector call you, and which they're really not supposed to call you, but the laws are like, It's very gray. Technically, they're supposed to send you a notice first. They're supposed to send you a notice first. Now, I have other videos on how they're supposed to send that notice. But in short, they're not supposed to send that notice on a postcard. They're not supposed to send that by a third party. It has to be something that's done by their company, because they're not supposed to reveal your personal information to a third party. But let's get into this 5-day notice. If they call you and you tell them, send me the information about this debt that you're claiming that I owe, they have 5 working days to get that information to you. Listen to me, folks. 5 working days to get that information to you. Not 6, not 7, not 8, not 30. 5 days. This is actually written into the law where there is no gray area on this. 5 working days. And so they call you, you request the info, 5 working days. If they don't get it to you in 5 working days, and then all of a sudden on the 6th or 7th or 8th day, that information comes to you. You gotta write down. You gotta write down the day that they call. You gotta write that day down. So let's just say it's the 30th, 2023. They called you today, as of today. They called you today. And then 6 days later, the letter comes. 6 days later. And from everything that I see, there is no gray area on this. And the debt collectors, they don't play around with this one rule right here, because this is a major violation. Like all the other rules seem to be like this gray area, like to interpret it a certain way. But this one right here, seems to be the one that they just said, hey, it is this way or the highway. So if you get it 6 days later, all you have to do is write a letter to them and say, you broke the 5-day rule of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You broke the 5-day rule, and you need to cease all collection activities on the debt. You don't need to ask about verification, validation, nothing. Just say, you broke the rule, and I recorded the date. Now, when you say recorded can mean several things. Recorded could just mean I just wrote it down on a piece of paper. That's a recording. It doesn't have to mean that I recorded you by phone. That's if they come back and say, well, you recorded us illegally by phone. No, I recorded it on a piece of paper. You recorded the call by phone. Remember, you say that anything that you say, this is an attempt to collect the debt, and that all calls are being recorded. You recorded the call. I recorded it on a piece of paper. That's all you would have to say. So if they go 6 days or more, that debt, after you make that notice, it's going to be gone. It will be gone. So I hope that was some great information for you. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process and my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com to grab those. Get your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores, and all of the information that you'll need to work this process here that I just gave you, because you're going to need their information to be able to send your verifications to furnishers if they try to play that address little trick game on you. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters: Statute of Limitations, Cease and Desist Collection Activities Letter, and Debt Validation. Thank you for your time. Post your questions and comments below. This is Stephen A. Williams, President.